Here are the top stories for today, July 23, 2021. No room for complacency. Metro Manila and 4 other provinces revert to GCQ with heightened restrictions effective today. Children are back at home in these areas as their outdoor activities are prohibited again. The Department of Health confirms the local transmission of the COVID-19 Delta variant. 12 newly detected cases bring the total number of Delta variant cases to 47. Travel ban expanded. Travelers from Malaysia and Thailand will be barred from entering the country starting July 25 as the country works double time to prevent further spread of the Delta variant. And Presidential Task Force on Media Security seeks a thorough probe on the killing of Cebu broadcaster Ray Cortez. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. We begin with some changes in the quarantine status in some areas. President Rodrigo Duterte has approved the recommendation of the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases or IATF-EID, placing Metro Manila and 4 other provinces to stricter general community quarantine with heightened restrictions. Metro Manila, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, Davao de Oro, and Davao del Norte are now under a more restrictive GCQ from July 23 to 31. Metro Manila, which was placed under GCQ with some restrictions from July 1 to 15, was initially put under regular GCQ from July 16 to 31. On the other hand, Davao de Oro and Davao del Norte were originally under a more restrictive Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine or MECQ, while Ilocos Norte and Ilocos Sur were supposed to be under Modified GCQ until the end of July. The Octa Research Group earlier called on the national government and local government units to impose stricter quarantine status after it noted an uptick of COVID-19 infections in NCR. It says the average number of daily COVID-19 cases in the NCR increased by 27% from 638 cases in the previous week to 813 cases this week alone. Octa fellow Ranjit Rai said the uptick cannot be underestimated because of the reality that it may be driven by the Delta variant. With the stricter quarantine status, children aged 5 and above are no longer allowed to stay outdoors. Duterte, meantime, agreed to downgrade the quarantine classification in Davao del Sur from MECQ to GCQ as more recoveries are noted in the region. The Department of Health urges the public to strictly adhere to minimum public health standards, especially with the detection of local cases of the Delta variant. Health authorities said 12 additional cases of the more transmissible Delta variant have been detected. So far, the country's total number of Delta cases stands at 47. All the 12 Delta variant cases were local cases with indicated addresses, 6 from Central Luzon, 2 from Calabarzon, 1 from Bicol region, and 3 from the National Capital Region. The Department of Health in the Bicol region clarifies that their lone case of the Delta variant is a 27-year-old female from Sorsogon who is currently working in the NCR. It says the patient has neither traveled to Bicol for the last 3 years. Her specimen was taken for testing at the Lung Center of the Philippines in Quezon City last July 25. Meanwhile, the 2 patients from Calabarzon who were found to have contracted the COVID-19 Delta variant are from Calamba City. City Health Officer Adelino Labro says residents have no reason to worry about the Delta variant for now as the 2 have long been cleared of COVID-19. They underwent swab tests on June 27 and recovered from the virus on July 12. Measures are in place in the southern part of the country amid the threat of the Delta variant of COVID-19. The details from Lade Cabagani.
In Zamboanga City, security forces tightened border control both on land and sea to prevent the entry of the Delta variant of COVID-19. Mayor Maria Isabel Climaco Salazar issued the order after the Department of Health reported that 11 of the 16 Delta variant cases in the country last week are from northern Mindanao. The security sector and the local government recently busted the fake RT-PCR test results from unscrupulous individuals trying to sneak into the city. Investigations into the incident is ongoing. In South Cotabato, health personnel are closely monitoring the new infections detected in the province's 10 towns and Lone City to check for the patterns related to the COVID-19 variants. The Integrated Provincial Health Office says the city does not have any documented Delta variant case yet, but there is a big possibility it can enter their area as other regions already detected the disease. Meanwhile, health authorities in Negros Oriental are investigating a resident of Tanay City who was reported to have been exposed to a Delta variant patient. The person had previously recovered from the original COVID-19 virus. Negros Oriental was earlier placed under Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine or MECQ from July 16 to 30 and extended it from July 1 to 15. It was downgraded to General Community Quarantine or GCQ with heightened restrictions from July 16 to July 31. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Lid Kabagani.
COVID-19 cases among the healthcare workers of the Philippine General Hospital or PGH have decreased. PGH spokesperson Dr. Jonas Del Rosario says vaccination plays a big part as their fully inoculated personnel who contracted COVID-19 just got mild symptoms. He said the proportion of COVID-19 infections in the fully vaccinated group so far is 23 to 6,052. PGH healthcare workers were vaccinated mostly with Sinovac and AstraZeneca jabs. Meanwhile, about 1 million doses of the Sinovac vaccine arrived this morning at the NAIA Terminal 3 in Pasay City via Cebu Pacific flight. The latest delivery brings the country's total doses of Sinovac jabs to 17 million as of today. The government procured a total of 26 million doses of Sinovac for this year. Are teachers required to get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 before they can go to schools? This is the question posed by Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. In his Twitter account, Locsin asked the opinion of the Department of Justice if it is indeed legal for schools to require teachers to vaccinate before letting them in the classroom when face-to-face classes are allowed. He also asked if teachers can be fired if they refuse to get vaccinated. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara answered his inquiry saying mandatory vaccination will need thorough scrutiny before it can be implemented. He said Locsin's question may have been triggered by the new policy in France that requires people to present a vaccination when entering public places starting August. In Moscow, some 2 million workers, including frontline health workers, were required to be vaccinated, and businesses are being monitored for compliance. And in Germany, only vaccinated individuals are allowed in restaurants and bars. More and more people are now experiencing the benefits of being fully vaccinated against COVID-19. People are also seen lining up even at dawn just to make sure that they will be included in the master list, which is far from the vaccine hesitancy that we saw before. Some of our kababayans share their experience of getting the free vaccine from the government.
Okay naman. Mabilis naman yung vaccination din. Wala namang side effect.
Nilagnat ako. Yun lang.
Still to come, nothing to hide. The National Police says the Justice Department is free to review cases of cops involved in drug war deaths. And the Philippines imposes a total deployment ban of OFWs to Myanmar. Details ahead. This is the PNA Newsroom. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. they are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic, because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. Veering away from the hustle and bustle of city life is not easy for people who got used to it, especially for young people who grew up and eventually made friends in these areas. But for a young boy, this sacrifice will mean a lot in terms of starting a better life with his family in their hometown. Marita Mawahe has more.
Friends are always an important part of everyone's life, and for a 17-year-old boy, leaving his friends in the city to start a new life in the province could cause hesitations. This was the experience of Vilma Gonzalez Regal, 48 years old, who had a hard time at first convincing his eldest son, Jo Marie, about going back to Camarines Sur in Bicol for good. Jo Marie said that this is because he was born and raised here in the city and that he is not used to life in the province. But most of all his friends are here in the city. Jo Marie's mother, Vilma, applied to the national government's Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program last year. This is because of the difficult life they started experiencing since the COVID-19 pandemic struck the country. And seeing his mother suffering made Jo Marie change his mind.
Wala po, pumayag na lang din po ako kasi po nahirapan na rin po si mama. Tapos lahat po ginagawa niya para po sa akin. Para lang po mahirapan sa isang araw po na paghirap po na.
Vilma was teary-eyed as she narrates how the COVID-19 pandemic affected them and changed their life. She said that in her more than 17 years of living in Quezon City, it was only during this time that she was not able to pay the rent since she lost her job because of the pandemic.
Hindi na po talaga kami makapagbayad na bahay, na pinapaalis na po talaga kami, nakikiusap lang ako sa may-ari na mag-antay-antay lang po kasi wala nga po kaming trabaho, parang ganun. Yung pang nadanasan po talagang sobra. Talang buhay ko po, sa tagal ko po dito sa Maynila, kasi dalaga pa ako, nandito na ako. First time po talaga nangyari.
To make ends meet for her and her children, she washed clothes for her neighbors and friends and tried every odd job. She said that she is separated from the father of her children, who is also jobless. So she decided to apply to the BP2 program. Vilma said that her other son, Hans Christian, who is only 9 years old, readily agreed as he wants to see his grandmother in the province.
Masaya naman po. Yes. Makakauwi na po ng probinsya. Makikita ko na din po yung lola ko na matagal kong nakita simula nung magka-pandemic.
Vilma is optimistic that they can make it in the province as she is used to living there, and also because she believes that the government will not abandon them. If given some assistance, Vilma is also planning to put up a little store in their place.
Kaya salamat sa Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa. Kaya ma'am. Kasi baga nasanay na rin ang trabaho ko doon nung grade 3 pa lang, marunong na ako maggapas ng palay.
This is Marita Muahe for the PNA Newsroom.
Malacanang said the International Criminal Court, or ICC, cannot force the Philippines to cooperate with its planned investigation into President Rodrigo Duterte's anti-narcotics drive. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque said the lack of enforcement mechanism cannot compel the Philippines to cooperate when the president has clearly said the government will not do so. Roque's statement came after the Supreme Court dismissed the petitions challenging the Philippine government's withdrawal from the ICC. The High Tribunal, however, said the Philippines' withdrawal does not discharge a state party from the obligation it has incurred as a member. Duterte ordered in March 2018 the Philippines' withdrawal from the Rome Statute that created the ICC after Fatou Bensouda pushed through with the preliminary examination into his anti-illegal drugs campaign in February 2018. The Philippines officially cut ties with the ICC exactly a year afterwards. The Department of Justice, or DOJ, is free to reinvestigate cops in anti-illegal drugs operations who were cleared of administrative cases. Philippine National Police Chief General Guillermo Yazar said the PNP is serious in cooperating with the DOJ on its review of deaths in the government's anti-drug campaign. He said they are also ready to hold the police officers accountable once they are found guilty of violating the law. This came as the DOJ plans to review cases of police officers in anti-illegal drug operations where there were deaths but were already cleared by the PNP Internal Affairs Service. During the pre-State of the Nation Address Forum of the Security, Peace and Justice Cluster on Wednesday, Interior Secretary Eduardo Año said since 2017, over 17,000 rogue cops were subjected to disciplinary actions and sanctions. The Philippine government and the United Nations on Thursday formally launched the UN Joint Program on Human Rights. In a joint statement issued on Thursday night, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. said, "This signifies the country's commitment to partner with the UN in human rights promotion and protection." Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara described the launch as Manila's sincere efforts to infuse its law enforcement and investigative operations with a human rights dimension in a non-political setting. The Philippine government will work with various UN entities in the co-implementation of the initiative. UN Philippines Resident Coordinator Gustavo Gonzalez hailed the initiative as a critical milestone as they commit to act for human rights. The UNJP signing ceremony was held on July 22nd at the DFA office in Pasay City. Malacanang raised the possibility that the Philippines' debt of gratitude to the United States might sway President Rodrigo Duterte to reconsider the controversial Visiting Forces Agreement, or VFA. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque said all Filipinos, including the President, honor debt of gratitude. The White House's recent announcement that it would give the Philippines a free surplus of COVID-19 vaccines made Duterte ponder on the possible reconsideration of the VFA. On Wednesday, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana expressed confidence that Duterte would agree to the new terms of the VFA. Lorenzana also bared that an addendum will be discussed during his meeting with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin III, who is set to visit the Philippines on July 29 and 30. The VFA was supposed to be effectively scrapped in August last year, but the suspension of VFA termination was extended in November last year for another 6 months. The Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, or POEA, on Thursday imposed a total ban on the deployment of overseas Filipino workers to Myanmar. In a statement, the POEA said the ban covers all OFWs, including crew changes and shore leaves of Filipino seafarers. The Philippine Embassy in Yangon and the Department of Foreign Affairs earlier raised the alert status for Myanmar to alert level 4 due to the threat of COVID-19 and probable non-provision of healthcare services to OFWs. At the same time, the POEA directed all Philippine recruitment agencies with deployed OFWs in the host country to coordinate with their respective partner employers to report the conditions of their deployed workers on site and repatriate them back home. Meanwhile, the Philippine government advised Filipinos in Myanmar to evacuate as infections spike in the Southeast Asian nation. Philippine Ambassador Eduardo Capunan Jr. said the prevalent SARS-CoV-2 variant in Myanmar is now the more transmissible Delta variant. On July 21 alone, it recorded 6,093 new infections, pushing its active cases to over 70,000. Capunan said Myanmar does not have enough equipment to face the crisis. He added that many health workers who are part of the coup movement cannot return to work over fears of getting arrested by the military junta. Capunan urged all Filipinos to avail of the embassy's repatriation flights. A House panel has revived the bill proposing to extend probationary employment from the current 6 months to 24 months. The House Committee on Labor and Employment tasked a technical working group to thoroughly study the proposal to extend the maximum allowable period of probationary employment. Provinciano Ako Party List Representative Jose Singson Jr., the principal author of House Bill 4802, said the extension offers a win-win compromise to both workers and management who are affected by the pandemic. The bill will likewise address the much-criticized endo practice, which enables employers to not regularize workers after 6 months of continuous employment. The Department of Labor and Employment has formally asked President Rodrigo Duterte to certify as urgent the proposed Security of Tenure and End of Endo Act to end labor contractualization in the country. Duterte was ready to sign the law in 2019 but vetoed it after opposition from labor groups. Up next, the Presidential Task Force on Media Security seeks a thorough probe on the killing of Cebu broadcaster Ray Cortez. And a reminder to the public, provide correct information to hasten your registration for the national ID. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Presidential Task Force on Media Security condemned the killing of Reynante Ray Cortez, a block timer for radio station DYRB, who was shot dead by motorcycle gunmen in Barangay Mambaling, Cebu City on Thursday. Executive Director Undersecretary Joel C. Egco said they have already directed law enforcement agencies to use all available resources to bring to justice the perpetrators. Egco has ordered police investigators to find out if the incident was in connection with his block time program. He reminded broadcasters to be more vigilant as there is a spike in election-related violence committed against block timers, especially at the local level. PTFoMS co-chair and communications secretary Martin Andanar also extended the government's deepest condolences and sympathies to the family, friends, and colleagues of Cortez. Meanwhile, the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines Cebu chapter also condemned the killing of Cortez. In a statement, Cebu chairperson Lorraine Encarma lamented that attacks against journalists and media workers continue to rise simply for fulfilling their duties as watchdogs of society. Cortez was killed by still unidentified gunmen outside the radio station located in Barangay Duljo, Fatima, Cebu City at around 9 o'clock a.m. He was rushed to a nearby hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival. He was 45 years old. Cortez, who already survived an earlier attempt on his life, was arrested in 2006 for alleged extortion. Communications Secretary Martin Andanar reminded local radio and news reporters of their civic duty to allow their programs to be an avenue for more Filipinos to understand the benefits of the COVID-19 vaccine. During the network briefing news on Thursday, Andanar said reporters should be deliberate in the information they release to the public because this could hamper the rollout of the vaccination program. Andanar said this is in response to a piece of misleading information allegedly reported by a local radio in Sagay, Camiguin, and now causing residents to have doubts about vaccination. He said broadcasters are careful against spreading fake news, especially about COVID-19. For his part, Mayor Joseph Uwayan said the local government did a personalized approach to encourage more residents to get the COVID-19 jab. He also encouraged barangay leaders to get vaccinated first to convince their constituents that some information they read on social media are not true. Registrants for the Philippine Identification System must give the correct information beginning with the Step 1 demographic sign-up to avoid problems when they proceed to the Step 2 biometrics process. The Philippine Statistics Authority said it needs accurate information because all details will be stored in the PhilSys register. In its July 16 advisory, the PSA listed the information a registrant must accurately give during the Step 1 registration. The registrant's mobile number and email address would be optional but recommended to receive updates. The updates will include schedule for Step 2 registration and confirmation of address for the delivery of the PhilID. The PSA assures the privacy of details, particularly the address and mobile phone number. In sports, Philippine Sports Commission Chairman Butch Ramirez and Chief of Staff Mark Velasco expressed their readiness to cheer the country's 19 Filipino athletes when they head to battle in the Summer Olympic Games. Ramirez, who owns the distinction of being at the helm of the sports agency in 3 Olympics, extolled the Olympians for their hard work and perseverance during the pandemic. The PSC has been with the 19 Olympians every step of their way in their Olympic journey. Ramirez said the government has never been supportive of Filipino athletes financially until today under the leadership of President Rodrigo Duterte. He said they believe the dream of winning a gold medal is now on the brink of reality. The government had spent 2 billion pesos for the training and exposure of Filipino athletes since 2016 to form a strong team for Tokyo. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. No room for complacency. Metro Manila and 4 other provinces revert to GCQ with heightened restrictions effective today. Children are back at home in these areas as their outdoor activities are prohibited again. The Department of Health confirms the local transmission of the COVID-19 Delta variant. 12 newly detected cases bring the total number of Delta variant cases to 47. Travel ban expanded. Travelers from Malaysia and Thailand will be barred from entering the country starting July 25 as the country works double time to prevent further spread of the Delta variant. And Presidential Task Force on Media Security seeks a thorough probe on the killing of Cebu broadcaster Ray Cortez. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day.